Hi, welcome back to our accounting lessons, and we're in this lesson we're going to be talking about the double entry system. The double entry system, and double here means two, and so the double entry system is telling us that for every transaction that we make, in the business, there's always going to be two entries. And the double entry system is a system called debit, which is always on our left hand side, and credit, which is always going to be on our right hand side. So whatever the transaction we're dealing with, whatever transaction that we have done in the business, we're going to be making two entries in two separate accounts. One is going to be a debit entry and the other is going to be a credit entry. Hence we talk about the double entry system. So let's go for it right now. But before we actually go into talking about the double entry system, of course, our debit and our credit, as I said before, this side is my debit side and this side is my credit side, and this is a book that we're going to record our transaction in. Before we get into that, let me first of all talk about the types of transaction that we're going to have. First of all, the types of accounts, and then we're going to talk about the types of ledger. Double entry system, these are recorded in normally what we call ledgers. So I'm going to be recording my transaction in what is called a ledger. So remember, we have gone through the journal, we've gone through the sales day book, we've gone through the petty cash book, and these are called books of original entry: the cash book, the petty cash book, the sales day book, the purchases day book, our general journal. Now we're going to talk about ledgers, which is another book that we use in our accounting procedure. So types of ledgers, there are different types of ledger. One, we have a ledger that is called the sales ledger. We have the sales ledger, and the sales ledger would record all our sales transaction. Then we have number two, the purchases ledger. And in my purchases ledger, I am going to record all my purchases transaction. Then we have what is called the general ledger. And in my general ledger, this is where I'm going to record all the other transactions that would not be recorded in my sales ledger or my purchases ledger. So anything that has to do with income and expenditure, all of those would be recorded in what is called my general ledger. So how many ledgers do we have? We have the sales ledger, the purchases ledger, and we have the general ledger. Now in these ledgers we have accounts, different types of accounts, and so we are also going to look at your next topic, which is going to be the classification of account. So these are the ledgers: sales ledgers, purchases ledger, general ledger. Now let's go into classification of accounts. I'm talking about the double entry system here. So classification of accounts, what types of accounts am I going to have? Classification of accounts, because in these ledgers we are going to be recording different accounts. Classification number one is called personal accounts. And my personal accounts, and sometimes we write AC for short for accounts. Personal account is going to be my debtors account, and my debtors are people who owe me money or people who owe the company money. Okay, so my debtors are people who owe the company money. These would be persons who we sell goods to. So if we sold goods to some person on credit, these are my debtors. I sold goods to some people on credit, they owe the company money, they are called our debtors. Then we have our creditors. So A would be our debtors in the personal account, and B would be our creditors. And who are our creditors? Like the opposite of my debtors. My creditors are people who the company owe money. People who the company owe money. Okay, so we have our debtors are those who owe us, and we have our creditors are those who we owe. We owe. Now, creditors can be broken down into two groups, because there can be creditors, persons at the bank. I could owe the bank some money, or it could be that these are personal creditors, persons who I would purchase goods to on credit, and this is the personal account here. Creditors' personal account are persons who we purchase goods from on credit. The debtors are the people who owe us money. We sold them goods on credit. My creditors are people who the company owe some money. And these are our personal account. Then we have part B. So number 1 was personal account, and number 2, and so on the personal account we have debtors and we have creditors. These are our 2 personal accounts. Then we have number 2, impersonal account. I'm going to do the AC for short. Impersonal accounts, these are real accounts. Notice I call them real accounts, and these would now be accounts of things like my assets, my property, my assets, and these are all called real accounts. So let's call these property, or call them assets. Any form of assets, my motor vehicle, my property, etc. And then we have number 3, which is called my nominal account. And the nominal account are going to be the account of my expenses and my income. So when it goes to wages, salaries, paying rent, all of these things, they are called my nominal account. Just recapping quickly, we have personal account. The account of my debtors and creditors are personal account. We have impersonal account. These are accounts of real account, accounts of my property or my assets. And then we have nominal account, and these are accounts of our expenses and our income. So here we go, double entry system, and we are now going to get right into the meat of the matter of accounting in terms of making these entries in my double entry system. But as I said, we have to remember that where am I going to make these transactions? Where am I going to make these records? They are going to be in one of these ledgers. My sales ledger, there goes my double entry, my purchases ledger, my general ledger, and in these ledgers we are going to find accounts, personal accounts, impersonal accounts, or nominal accounts. So in our next lesson, we'll be getting right into the meat of the matter for double entry.